What will we leave behind if humans disappeared suddenly? Have you ever wondered how life on Earth could be when there will be no humans left to use the robots they invented, drive on the roads they constructed, to dig up the natural resources for their own comfort? What if we were to tell you that there was a huge possibility of all those movies coming to life, where the entire human race is either wiped out or is at a risk of extinction? In case the zombie apocalypse came true, or a viral disease wiped out the name of human existence, and the aliens, or probably a new species of humans, were to explore the traces of our existence, what would they find? Will the legacy be continued, or everything will be started from scratch, or perhaps a new way of life will be introduced? If you are interested in knowing what might happen in the near future, then this is the perfect video for you. This is According to Science, and today we will explain, along with logical arguments and not just some other conspiracy theories, that what will we leave behind if humans disappeared suddenly. If you want to know what might happen to you and your remains, and how the world would work if everyone disappeared suddenly, then stay tuned to watch the entire video. Before we hop into the details, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to stay up to date with such interesting future videos. So how long before human race could be eradicated, and how would that happen? One of the most predictable ways of wiping out the human life from the face of Earth is by getting infected by a deadly virus. However, a lot of theories suggest either a war against technology or alien invasion within the next 500 years. Well, being more practical and realistic, it'll be a mystery virus that could evolve due to a number of reasons. One of them being a result of wrong cloning and experiments in the lab that would cause an incurable effect on humans. Or another possibility being mutation in the genes of basic viruses that would cause sudden death as soon as someone gets in contact with it. The possibilities are endless, but the results are very predictable, and one thing we know for sure is that on one occasion an entire generation will be wiped out, and just like all other ancient civilizations, we too will be one. Okay, so let's assume that this virus can only attack humans and no other animal because they have a natural immunity against that, but humans don't. Interesting situation. So, to begin with, what will exactly happen after the human race has been exterminated? As for the doomsday, when there would be no trace of humans left behind, all the light would shut off, and within the next 10 days, all the pets and animals would die out of starvation or dehydration, since there would be nobody to take care of them. In many ways, the Earth will also miss us. There will be a sudden reduction in the CO2 production with the disappearance of more than 6 billion animals that produce difficulties for plants to survive in previously populated areas. Soon, even the domesticated animals would prey on weaker animals for the sake of their survival. The big dogs would eat up the smaller ones. Due to no assistance at nuclear power plants, there would be explosions with effects even worse than the Fukushima and Chernobyl incident, leading to possible mutation in animals and plants that managed to survive it. Almost a year later, the Earth would face consequences of our toxic actions, and there would be objects falling from the sky that have been present in the Earth's orbit for so long. 25 years after the doomsday, up to 75% of the world's paved paths would be covered in plants and fungus, while cities like Las Vegas and Dubai would turn into deserts, the way a desert is supposed to look naturally. After 3 centuries of no assistance, maintenance, and an abundance of exposure to a lethal environment, all the structures made of metals like bridges or Eiffel Tower would crumble down to earth. Swamps that once ruled the planet would get back to their throne, and the only visible evidence of our existence would be buildings made out of stone that can last for up to 100,000 years. We will be considered as an ancient civilization, just like we look at the evidence of human existence during the Indus Valley civilization. Before leaving Earth, who doesn't want the future people, or maybe aliens because you never know, to know that there was a civilization before them? there were actual people before them, how would the people from the future find us? How would they realize that there was a whole civilization advanced in technology that lived before them? Living on this planet, we have made a lot of changes, from converting deserts with extremely poor living conditions into the best tourist spots to changing the orientation of Earth's natural resources and natural gases for our own comfort. No civilization must have damaged the Earth and exhausted its resources like we did. From turning the ground upside down in search of coal and diamonds to making sure to give the oceans a good coat of oil to kill the marine life. Traces of human activity could stay on Earth up to infinity, even though activities like vegetation, storms, fires, frost, rust, earthquakes, and burrowing animal activity would end up erasing most of our visible traces within 1,000 years. But the ruins of some massive concrete structures might remain for a long time. Our pollution record might be found after millions of years, if aliens knew where to look and could interpret the geochemical results. Some of these long-lasting activities like building concrete structures, pollution, extracted mines, plastics and other industrial products, artificial sources of energy, artificial satellites, and other several systems that are maintained well away from thermal or environmental equilibrium will stay back the longest. The satellites in space can live for up to 100,000 years. This would help the new human race to find traces of our technological intellectuality in the space by observing such satellites and traces of man's presence on the moon. There will be obvious traces of our presence in Earth's chemistry due to the usage of heavy fertilizers to feed 7 billion people. There will be abundant traces of nitrogen and other nutrients in the soil, more than there should be. Another way of spotting human existence would be by noticing the piles of polymer sediment on the ocean floors. That will be just like the 65 million year old iridium layer that reveals the dinosaur-killing asteroid impact. Plastic and nuclear waste would stick around for a longer period of time. However, it might seem natural to the people from the future, as the Earth would have adapted to their presence for a longer period of time. Our remains would turn into fossils along with those of our domesticated animals, just as we find fossils of dinosaurs and their distant ancestors today underneath the ground. One day, someone else might dig up the ground to find skulls of humans and animals that would later be tested, and that individual might get known for his contribution towards discovering traces of life before them. Talking about fossils that we may leave behind for the modern-day future archaeologists, well, it'll be a challenge for them. According to a new study, archaeologists from the future would only need our bones to determine the age of our civilization instead of our former technology or their latest technology. This is because despite saving the data on disks or computers, their new technology would not be able to recognize it, considering the fact that computer records and code from decades ago that modern computers can't recognize because it's so far out of alignment. And that would be a possibility only if those disks survive for that long, which is pretty much impossible. So, imagine 2 million years from now, what other option would they have? Only digging bones from the ground and studying them directly? Well, the process can be a little messy for them, as they would have to differentiate between bones of a lot of different living beings, including a lot of cats and dogs, humans, domestic animals like cows and sheep, etc. Finding out the bones of all those individuals and studying them in depth would take a lot of time for them to figure out which bone belongs to which animal and what was that animal like. Well, best of luck with that, future archaeologists or aliens, whoever's going to deal with us. Just the idea of living beings from the future trying to decipher our languages, because their own languages would be very different from ours, sounds very interesting. Imagine individuals literally digging up the earth to find us as a proof of life. Imagine someone getting inspired by the way we lived and our achievements in the future. Well, one interesting thing is that what will they know us as? Like we refer to individuals from the Indus Valley civilization. The questions are unlimited, but the answers need to be dug up yet. However, one thing you are certain of is what would happen to Earth if humanity was extinct and there was nobody to take care of anything. Who knows, the future people might use our DNA to make clones in order to study us better. Well, the world is full of endless possibilities, and one can only assume the future. You as an individual might leave behind physical traces of your existence, like DNA from teeth, hair, or dead skin cells, or digital traces by liking this video. If you liked this video, then don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. And hit the bell icon to stay up to date with such interesting future videos.